Gavin Newsom completely face planted on trans issues again. So Katie Couric interviewed Gavin Newsom about trans issues, and it went about as well as you would think it would go. Let me just read this snippet here. This is from The Advocate. It says, Katie Couric confronts Gavin Newsom on his shifting views of transgender youth. California Governor Gavin Newsom, a Democrat often discussed as a potential 2028 presidential contender, defended his record on LGBTQ plus rights while drawing new scrutiny for his comments about trans athletes during a pointed interview with veteran journalist Katie Couric on last Thursday's episode of the podcast Next Question with Katie Couric. The exchange aimed to spotlight a growing tension inside Democratic politics about how to confront a wave of conservative attacks targeting trans Americans while navigating an increasingly polarized political environment. For decades, Democrats have positioned themselves as the party of inclusion, arguing that government should defend the equal rights of all people, including LGBTQ plus Americans. Republicans, meanwhile, have increasingly centered trans issues in campaign messaging and legislation, and that's a goddamn understatement. Couric confronted Newsom with criticism from trans advocates who say his recent rhetoric risks reinforcing those dynamics. Katie Couric said, one of my followers who is trans feels as if you're throwing trans people under the bus and that you see them as a political liability. Newsom rejected that claim, pointing to what he described as a long record supporting trans rights in California. Newsom said he's saying it to the person who's promoted and signed more pro-trans legislation than any elected official in this country. He emphasized personal connections as well. I have a trans godson, he said, remarking that he signed what he described as some of the most progressive trans legislation just 9 months ago. Newsom has frequently pointed to California's legislative record to defend those credentials. Since taking office in 2019, he has signed numerous measures expanding protections for LGBTQ plus residents, including laws easing the process for legal name and gender marker changes, requiring universities to provide LGBTQ-specific suicide prevention resources, and strengthening privacy protections around gender-affirming care. California has also enacted policies designed to protect trans students and families seeking gender-affirming treatment. Gavin, no one's mad about that stuff. Excuse me. What's pissing me off is that you go and say stupid shit, and now you're saying, it's okay, look at my record. What he obviously doesn't realize is that it's its actual behavior and his words on this issue that are worrying, not his professional record. Gavin Newsom agreed with white supremacists that he invited onto his own podcast that trans women shouldn't play sports, and further gave disinformation in this process because it is not true that trans women have a physical advantage to cisgender women. Trans women who are on hormones, which is required in collegiate sports and higher, have the same body type athletically as a cisgender woman. And there are studies that actually show trans women have disadvantages to cisgender women because of the muscle to skeleton ratio. This is the evidence, the science that we already knew when Gavin had these people on his podcast. Gavin, you gave white supremacists a platform, and you fed into and spread disinformation about trans people. And for low information voters, Gavin, which are all over the United States, you just told white supremacists that their beliefs are valid with what you said. I would think there was a lot of backlash after his podcast stuff. And yet he still made a comment the other day about Democrats needing to ignore pronouns and gender identity while we are literally in the middle of a genocide against transgender Americans. Out of touch, Gavin. Your disinformation spread down to schools and children and trans people. How do you think your trans nephew felt hearing you say those things? Trans people heard that. Trans people who can only dream of playing a sport because we aren't allowed to. Your words crushed that hope, Gavin. In a time when we need people defending us, protecting us, telling the truth, you have failed to do that with the trans community, Gavin Newsom. Thank you guys for listening. Please like this, share this, leave your comments, subscribe to stay updated on news, and I'll be back soon. Ta-ta.